As the cost of living continues to rise, it's important to have strategies in place and to manage your finances effectively. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing some tips and tricks for dealing with the increasing cost of living and how to make the most of your money. The past 12 months has been a bit of a wild ride. Those who are servicing a mortgage will most likely be starting to feel the pinch when it comes to their bank accounts, or if things keep going the way they are going, which the trend is kind of aiming in that direction, they will be soon. And for those who purchased at the very peak, they are definitely going to be affected the most. Just as one example, I myself, at the time of recording this video, my interest rates have doubled since I purchased my second property about 12 months ago. Once I come off of my fixed interest rate, I will be adding somewhere in the realm of $20,000 of mortgage interest to the banks each year at current variable interest rates. That is a massive amount of money, and it's kind of scary if there isn't a plan been put in place to adapt to this change. The one-liner for me is that that number is not going to be easy to absorb into my already very tight and strict budget. And for those who, let's say, aren't as calculated or aren't as responsible with their money, they are probably going to be put under a lot of pressure, which could cause some serious issues in their realm of finance if the pressure doesn't ease. Just take a look at this image here from CanStar outlining how people's monthly repayments would have shifted against each rate rise since May of 2022. I know plenty of people who are paying down sizable debt, and when you look at it from this perspective, it really paints a picture of how bad it could be for some. With about $1 million of debt under my belt, I'm going to have to come up with an additional $1,800 per month, or about $450 a week. And for some, that would be half of their take-home pay. That is not insignificant at all. Not to mention that interest rates are expected to continue to rise, meaning more pressure is going to be added onto mortgage holders. Now, moving outside of the scope of property and interest rates, I've also noticed an increase in costs to things like food, clothing, entertainment, and travel, just to name a few of the more common examples. This is also not a good thing for consumers' wallets, as we may need to start to rethink our purchases, which obviously is the effect that the government wants to see to ease inflation. But that's not to mention that a lot of people are potentially going to be put under some form of financial stress during this, let's call it, hard period of our economy and the world's economy, and a little bit of uncertainty as well into that mix. So what specifically can you be putting in place to somewhat deal with this increasing cost of living? Tip number one to adapt to the cost of living rising is to create a budget. This will help you keep track of things like your income and expenses, and will make sure that you're not overspending when you probably shouldn't be. This might seem like a blatantly obvious solution. However, I know plenty of adults that still choose not to use one and then still complain about money being tight. Understanding where your money is being spent gives you full control over it. A budget is one of the most powerful tools that you can utilize, and to be completely honest, they are not that hard to put together. I've made several videos on this topic and discussed them in depth on the channel. I have left links down in the description below and suggest that you give them a watch if you think that they might be something that will assist you in the process of making your own. And while you're down there, if you could quickly hit that like and subscribe button as well, it really helps the channel, and I really appreciate the support. Tip number two, again, might be blatantly obvious, but it definitely deserves to be put in the list and considered nonetheless, and that is to look for opportunities to save money on monthly bills and expenses. This might mean switching to a cheaper mobile phone plan, negotiating with your internet or energy provider, or potentially cutting out non-essential expenses. I again have made in-depth videos on these topics and linked them down in the description below. I'm not even going to say any more about this point. Go and watch those videos. They will teach you exactly the process you need to go through to make sure you are getting the best bang for your buck when paying for these services. Okay, tip number three is where it gets a little bit tougher, but will still be applicable to many, and that is to find a way to increase your income. In order to adapt to the cost of living, you may be in a situation where this is a must do. You have to increase your income, otherwise you're not going to be able to make ends meet. This could mean going out and getting a new job. It could mean starting a side hustle, or potentially negotiating a raise with your current employer to maximize your income earnings potential at the company that you're already working for. And again, that's as far as I'm going to go into point number three, because I have made videos on these topics and linked them in the description below. Again, if this is the trajectory that you're looking at, Go and watch those videos, gain that insight, and then actually implement them. Find a way to make it happen. Another way to adapt to the cost of living going up is to invest in yourself. And this is going to be tip number 4. This is generally referred to as upskilling in some capacity. And the idea behind it is to make yourself indispensable in the workplace. Whatever you do, get really good at it, become reliable, become trustworthy, and just really be able to put your head down, get your work done to a high degree, and have that reflected in the eyes of the people who are managing you. This is a really powerful tool because if you really like what you do, or even if you don't like what you do, but you need to keep your job for however long because of times of hardship, this is the most effective way to solidify your ability to continue to generate income. And finally, tip number 5, which I touched on back in tip number 2 a little bit, but now we're honing in a little bit more, and that is cutting back on unnecessary expenses. And in particular, the things that are going to be your big wins are going to be eating out less, so cooking at home a little bit more, not ordering Uber Eats, definitely one to add to that list. Shopping less, impulse purchasing generally is something that people do a lot. I myself have fallen into that trap many times before, but I am very conscious of it, and it has helped my savings since I've been conscious about it. And then number 3 is to cut back on any subscriptions that you may not use anymore, or you may use very little and not actually need. Sometimes people just need a reminder that, hey, it's probably going to be a good idea to go and check what I'm actually signed up to and what I'm paying for each month. Like I said, I personally have found myself falling into these traps often where lifestyle creep has definitely run its course, and I need to kind of assess my situation and go, do I really need to be spending money on a lot of these things? It really does add up when you take a step back, write it all down, keep track of it in a budget, and see that you might have spent a percentage of your wage for that week that you're not overly comfortable spending. And just quickly tying it back to one of the other tips that I mentioned just before, when you start to increase your income, your earnings potential goes up, it makes it much easier to justify, let's say, poor spending habits. And it's something that you really should be aware of, something that you should absolutely try your very best to stay on top of, because it can blow out of proportion very quickly. I guess as a one-liner, the way I would put it is building healthy habits with your money is very important to avoid falling into the traps that many others do. Overall, dealing with the increasing cost of living can be challenging, but with a bit of planning and effort, you absolutely can, in most circumstances, get on top of your finances and make sure that they are managed appropriately. By creating a budget, looking for ways to save money, increasing your income, finding ways to invest in yourself, and cutting back on unnecessary expenses, you can absolutely stay on top of this, let's call it hard time that we may be entering and sitting in for a little bit of time. You absolutely can be on top of it. You absolutely can manage it, and you absolutely can not be as sweaty as some may be who aren't as organized or haven't put as much effort in as you might have. That is, in a nutshell, what I wanted to cover in today's video, and I hope that it was somewhat insightful. It really, as an overview, I really wanted to shed light on these topics, and then I've, like I said, provided a bunch of links in the description below where I go into much more detail about those specific topics. So if you did enjoy today's video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It really means the world, and I really do appreciate the support. And feel free to use those resources that I've linked down below. I think a lot of them are really good watches, and there's a lot of good information in them. So that's where I'm going to leave you for the rest of today. Please have a great day, have a great week, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.